In today's video, we're going to discuss who I think are the top 5 sleeper picks for the 2018 NHL Draft. Now, by sleeper picks, I mean prospects that are not expected to go in the upper half of the first round. So these are all players that are likely going to go late in the first round or into the second round that I think have the potential to possibly become superstars. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Alright, so as I mentioned off the top, today we're discussing some of the prospects for the 2018 NHL Draft that I would classify as a sleeper pick. Now, as I mentioned, a sleeper pick to me is somebody who's not ranked super high, somebody who's not expected to go in the top 10 or even the top 15, but certainly have the tools and the potential, based on what we've seen so far, to potentially be a fairly good star or even a superstar in the NHL a few years down the road. Now, some of these players, I just find they're not getting a whole lot of attention when it comes to all the prospect talk, but I think a lot of these guys that could go later into the first round, in the second round, and maybe even a few beyond, have that potential to be big stars. As we've mentioned many times discussing this draft on this channel, I think this is going to be a really deep draft. There is a lot of prospects that look like they have a lot of potential. Some of these guys I think just have the actual raw talent. It's just a matter of getting their development in order and hopefully getting them drafted to the right team, hooking them up with the right coaches and people to help them get where they need to be. Number 5, we're going to go with Alexeyev, who's a Red Deer Rebel playing in the Western Hockey League within the Canadian Major Junior Hockey Leagues here. He is a fairly good-sized puck-moving defenseman, pretty good defensively as well. Now, I think, in my opinion here, his draft stock kind of fell a bit this year, not due to his talent or poor play, but he had a family situation early on where his mother suddenly passed away and he had to take some time off away from the league. So he missed a bunch of time due to that. So obviously you can't continue to evaluate and move your way up the rankings when you're not playing. So that was a very unfortunate situation for him. But I think, in my opinion, that's part of what happened this year as to why his draft stock's not a little bit higher. And also later in the year after he came back, he did have a fairly significant injury. He did manage to play through it and didn't really miss much time. But still, it certainly impacted his play a little bit, in my opinion here. So I think between those two things, I think there's just a lot of talent there with Alexeyev that may have been overlooked or just not seen enough to push his way up the rankings. Now, he's 6'3", he's got a good size, he's very mobile, very good with the puck, great offensive defenseman, but he's also solid defensively as well. He put up 37 points in 45 games that he played, so I mean, that's pretty solid in the Western Hockey League. So I mean, and he defends well as well. And like, he's got good size, he's a good skater, puts up good offensive points. So I really think this guy has the potential to be a sleeper pick here. You know, as I'm forming my opinion on a lot of these prospects, I'm watching as many games as I can, trying to catch a lot of footage online. You know, I check other resources and other places that do draft prospect rankings to kind of see what they think and kind of put it all together to form my own opinion here. And there's just a lot of these guys, they're just all over the place with ranking systems. I've seen some of these players ranked you know, high in the first round. I've seen them late in the first round, second round. So that's the other reason why I kind of call them sleeper picks, is that there's just a wide range of opinions. But in my opinion, Alexeyev certainly has all the raw talent to be a top tier defenseman in the NHL, either first or second pairing. Probably more so a second pairing if you compare him to the other defensemen that are expected to go higher into the first round. But I think Alexeyev certainly has potential to be a first round pick. If he does, I think it'll be in the bottom half, probably somewhere between 25 and 31, but it is certainly a possibility as well that he could slip into the second round, maybe somewhere between 32 and 40. It's a possibility. It kind of depends on how all the different teams picking there feel about him, but he's certainly a player to watch. I would imagine he probably would be at least 1, maybe 2 years away from playing in the NHL, but there's a lot of teams I think that would be wise to take a long look at Alexeyev here, as you know, he could be a project down the road after he gets some more development time, could be a solid defenseman in the NHL. Number 4, I'm putting Finnish center Rasmus Dahlin. Now, I'm not sure if he'll be a center for sure when he makes it to the NHL. He could be potentially be a winger as well. Some guys get moved to the wing. He's not a huge guy, but he's been playing for Karpat in Liga this year. Put up some pretty decent numbers, but the numbers aren't really going to blow you away. But I think the raw talent that he shows at times certainly has the potential to develop in a year or two time to really be a stronger player than he appeared to be this past season. Now, a lot of places have Kupari going as a first-round pick, probably, like I said, somewhere towards the second half, probably. I mean, I've seen him ranked anywhere from like 15 to 30, really. There's a lot of different sources. Personally, I'd put him kind of in the mid-20 range. I think he's going to go somewhere between like 21 and 25. That's my opinion. But I guess we'll see what everybody else thinks about him when they're actually doing the picking at the draft. We've seen a Kupari so far. He's a pretty good two-way center, but more so a playmaker with a good shot, good stick handler. He gets a lot of comparison to Sebastian Aho. Now, if you look at where Aho is right now in his development, obviously Kupari's a ways off because he's a few years younger. But if you look at where Aho was playing in a similar type league over in Finland at the same age, the numbers aren't all that different. So I would think that Kupari in the next year or two really has a chance to blossom and really show what he's made of here. He's a little bit of a high-risk, high-reward pick, in my opinion. Depending on who selects him, you're going to be waiting a couple of years to get him to the NHL. It's one of those picks that, depending on where your organization is at, if you can take the time and the patience to work with him, I think you have a potential, number 2, number 3 center on your hands. But Kupari, I think, does classify as a high-risk, high-reward pick. So we'll see, but if he turns out to be anything anywhere close to Sebastian Aho, like he does get some comparison to, then certainly will obviously be a great pick for whoever selects him here at the 2018 draft. The number 3 sleeper pick, in my opinion, is Liam Foudy. Liam Foudy plays for the London Knights in the Ontario Hockey League. He's a Canadian-born player. He basically, his first half this year, he was stuck in a bottom 6 role because the London Knights were a pretty stacked team. They had a lot of guys that were older, more experienced, but obviously things didn't go as well as planned this year in London, and they ended up shipping out a lot of their forwards. I believe it was about 4 of their top 6 guys ended up getting traded out, which meant a lot of players like him got a chance to move up and play a bigger role. In the last 30 games of the season, I believe he put up 31 or 32 points. So in the second half, he really had a really strong finish, putting up a point per game or better to kind of boost his draft stock here. Really showed what he was capable of doing. I would certainly say it's a safe bet. He would definitely go back to junior next year. I think he's at least 1 to 2 years away from being NHL ready. Foudy, in my opinion, is just one of the best all-around natural athletes in this draft. I think he could rival some of the top skaters in this draft as well. His father was a former CFL football player. Like he has great DNA makeup. His mother was an athlete as well. So he comes from a very athletic family. He's just a really good all-around athlete with blazing speed. He can play center, and he's pretty decent playmaker as well. So when you have a guy who's a tremendous athlete with blazing speed who can play center, that's going to draw a lot of attention from a lot of clubs, and that a lot of that really became more apparent in the second half of the year. So he's gotten a lot more attention. So I would think that it's possible Foudy could move up into the first round, but I think it's more than likely if he does, it's going to be late in the first. Otherwise, he's probably going to be somewhere in the early second round would be my most likely destination for Foudy to get picked. He's 6'1", 183 pounds, so the size is pretty solid. Like I said, he's got that blazing speed. He's pretty good with the puck as well, and he had a tremendous showing at the draft combine. Like some of the tests that they do are pretty intensive, and he did really well compared to a lot of the other prospects. But his performance at the draft combine was tremendous, and I think really opened up a lot of people's eyes to just how good a shape he's in. The tremendous athlete, blazing speed. I think he's worth taking a risk on, and I think he could probably end up with a very solid. If he's not a number 1, he certainly has the potential to be a number 2 center in the NHL. So we'll see, but I would certainly take a risk on this guy with a late first round or early second round pick. The number 2 sleeper pick in this draft, in my opinion, is German-born Dominic Bach. Now, Bach is from Germany, but he's been playing in Sweden. He was playing with the Vaxo Lakers, which is the same organization that we just saw Elias Pettersson break all the SHL records. Now, he didn't get much time with the actual big club in the SHL. He played mostly with the under-20 junior team, but he had a tremendous showing. He put up 41 points in 35 games. Earlier this season, I even seen an article referencing an interview with Elias Pettersson, who even quoted saying that Dominic Bach showed a lot of the same personal characteristics and was a similar type player as him. So, obviously that gave him a big boost, kind of caught some more people's attention, having another top prospect mention him like that. But Bach, I think, has the tremendous potential to be a really offensive powerhouse in the NHL. He's incredibly skilled. He's a very creative passer. His stick handling is tremendous. One of the expressions used to describe Bach was that he could stick handle his way around the phone booth. Obviously, in a phone booth, you don't get much room. So obviously, that's, he's incredibly skilled with the puck. Got a pretty good shot, great with the puck, great stick handler, great offensive vision. So those are skills that are really hard to come by. Those are skills that are very difficult to teach. So I think Bach has the potential. Now, I know I've seen a few places have him up in even in the upper half of the first round, which I think is a little too high in my opinion. He does have a tremendous upside here, but again, he's another guy with a late first round pick. I don't know if he'd go into the second round. If he does, I'd probably grab him as soon as I could, because Bach, I think, has a tremendous upside for a low first round pick. He's worth taking a chance on. Just shows that he has tremendous offensive talent. And if he does turn out to be anything like Elias Pettersson, then he's certainly worth the risk on that pick. So, Bach is another prospect to keep your eye on. Now, the number one sleeper pick, in my opinion, in the 2018 NHL Draft, this guy is going to be another high risk, high reward, but if it works out for him, he has tremendous upside, and that is defenseman Ryan Merkley from Guelph in the Ontario Hockey League. This kid is a wizard on the blue line. He has tremendous offensive skills. The only drawback, every time you hear anybody talk about Merkley, there's always a but. You can hear them rave about his offensive vision, about his shot, all his offensive capabilities, but then the but is always the attitude. Now, attitude is something that's difficult to work with. Merkley's not a huge guy. He's 5'11", around 170, 175 pounds, but as you know, he's just an offensive wizard with the puck. He's incredibly talented. He's a good skater. He's got a good shot, great vision, great passer. If he can get rid of the attitude and become a better teammate and work better with the coaches, I think he has the potential that he could rival some of the Ds that are expected to go in the upper half of the first round. He has that raw talent. It's just a matter of getting all the other intangible things in order to really develop not only his skill on the ice and his defensive play, but his character. Like, he's pretty decent all-around defenseman, and I think if he had a better attitude and he showed better, receptiveness to the coaching and things like that, I think he would be certainly ranked higher on a lot of teams' lists. But I think Merkley is a little bit of a wild card that, a lot of teams might shy away from him because of that attitude problem. But if he can get that in check, really grow up as a player and develop his character more, and somebody wants to take a chance on him, he could develop into a top paired defenseman with like a power play type quarterback specialist. He has those raw talents. It's just all those other things that he needs to get in line to really develop his character to being an NHL player. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think of these top 5 sleeper picks? Are there any other players you see as a high sleeper pick that really could change the franchise of one of these NHL teams but are not expected to go as a high first round pick? So like I said, we're looking at guys expected to go either late in the first round, second round, or even beyond. There's all kinds of players. There's always a diamond in the rough, and I think some of these guys might turn out to be those guys for this year's draft. So let me know what you think down below in the comments. Now, if you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's all kinds more draft coverage coming your way for the 2018 NHL Draft, so stay tuned for a lot more videos just like this one. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.